Oh, it's Joanna. Okay. Explains everything. I'm just kidding. Guys, we're about to take a 3-hour journey to analyze. I had Donna, I had him for a second there. I just had you there. I'm sorry. It should be 1 week. Should be. Anyway, so yeah, we're going to take a 3-hour journey into the Nephilim, right? I'm just joking. I'm going to talk about, I think, a much more important topic and relevant topic, which is about today, the Sabbath. So, just want to give you a little brief outline of today. We're going to go over a video. We're going to watch a video about the number 7 from one of my favorite groups of people who create videos, the Bible Projects. I know Caleb, he's been watching it, and I know Eric Lovelace has his children, or some of them watch it, to learn. It's an educational experience. We'll review the video. We'll read some passages about Sabbath observance. We'll have a discussion. Yes, you're not going to just be a passive learner today. You're actually an active learner. You're going to have some engagement. We'll talk about some gray areas of Sabbath. I have a couple of examples. You might have others to think about. And then we'll conclude about what's important about the Sabbath keeping. Sound good? Dawn, does it sound like a lot? Yeah, Jess. It's for 100% of your final grade. I'm just kidding. So there is a video, and I had envisioned that we would pass out the clipboards right now, but because I have some stuff for you to think about. You're welcome to get one if you like, just to jot down. There's some pens and clipboards, but if not right now, if there's something you want to think about for the moment, we can bring out, okay, Eric, if you want to do that. Just some clipboards for each person with some pens. We are a little bit limited. I had like 10 clipboards. I don't know what happened to all of them. I guess they just disappeared. So I blame the children. Okay, good. Oh, Jess, can we go back to my slide, please? So once you can think about it too. You don't have to write anything, okay? But what does this video get you to think about, okay? What do you wonder about this video? And what questions does it cause you to ask? So it's a pretty important video, I think. Bible Project made it. It's about the number 7, how it carries throughout the Bible, which is a very important number. But it's also focused on Sabbath, which was the ending of a 7-day creation account. Okay? So Jess, could you go ahead and, unfortunately the video would not be embedded into the slideshow. It's decided not to work this week, so Jessica, you're going to have to swivel and put the video up there. Thank you.
The number 7 is a big deal in the Bible.
Yeah, in biblical Hebrew, the word 7 is connected to the idea of fullness or completeness.
And that's something we all long for, but don't often experience. Instead, we find ourselves working endlessly, fighting back chaos with no real rest.
Yes. Now keep all that in mind as we turn to Genesis 1 in the Bible. It begins with darkness and disorder, but then God speaks to bring about light and order so that life can flourish.
And this happens over the course of 6 days.
Each day is marked with the phrase, there was evening and there was morning. But on the 7th day, something special happens.
God stops and rests.
Right. Creation is brought to its completion on the 7th day. And that phrase, there was evening and there was morning, it doesn't appear on day 7.
It's like a day with no end.
On the 7th day, God's presence fills his creation. The land provides for all of God's creatures, including humans, who are appointed to rule the world with God forever.
Kings and queens of the 7th day rest. I can get into that.
But the humans are deceived by a dark power, and they forfeit that rest. They're exiled into the wilderness, where they have to work as slaves to the land.
Until they die and return to the dust from which they came.
But God wants to restore humanity back to that 7th day rest. So he chooses to give the family of Israel that experience of ultimate rest so they can share it with others.
But how? They're in Egypt, slaves to an oppressive empire who's grinding them into the dust.
So God confronts Egypt and he liberates the Israelites, taking them through the darkness and chaos on the way to the promised land.
Now, while they're on their way, they find themselves in the wilderness. It's easy to get lost. Life is a struggle. They're not in the land of rest yet.
But while they're on the way, God invites them in the wilderness to start living as if they're in the promised land.
But how do you practice the future rest in the wilderness?
Well, God tells them that every seventh day they are to stop their work, or in Hebrew, to Shabbat, so that they can rest and enjoy God's good world.
So take a whole day to live as if the ultimate rest has already come.
Yeah, this is the Sabbath, celebrated every week on the seventh day. But there's more. The Sabbath is just one of 7 festivals that Israel practiced every year, each one anticipating that seventh-day rest.
That is a lot of sevens.
And there's even more. Every 7 years, the Israelites were to liberate slaves, forgive debts, and let the land rest for a whole year. And then, every 7 times 7 years was the ultimate seventh-day rest, called the Year of Jubilee. If anyone had lost their land or gone into debt, all was forgiven, everything restored.
Wow, so the Sabbath, these feasts, the Year of Jubilee, it's all pointing towards the hope of future rest.
Right. Now, when the Israelites went into the land, they forgot their God, and so they forfeited their chance for rest in the promised land.
They're exiled and enslaved again by an oppressive nation, led back into a world of chaos and disorder.
But Israel's prophets said that their exile would end one day, and that the ultimate jubilee of freedom and rest would come, but generations go by, and they're still waiting.
It's at this dark point in the story that Jesus appears, and he launches his public mission on a Sabbath day.
Yeah, he read aloud from the scroll of Isaiah, saying that it was time for all captives and slaves to be released, because this was the year of the Lord's favor.
What did he mean, this is the year of the Lord's favor?
He was talking about the ultimate jubilee.
Also, Jesus is claiming that seventh-day rest would come through him.
Right, he said that he was the Lord of the Sabbath, and he confronted disorder and darkness in all of its forms, liberating people from sickness, sin, even from death itself.
Yet, Jesus was killed, so even his work was undone.
Well, it seemed that way. But notice, Jesus timed his death to take place at the end of the week. His body rested in a tomb during the Sabbath, and on the 8th day, he rose from the dead.
Oh wait, the 8th day? You mean the first day of a new week?
Exactly. Jesus' resurrection was like the first day of a new creation, where God's light and life broke into the darkness.
So because of the resurrection, we have hope in God's promise of future rest. But we're not there yet. It's like we're still in the wilderness, where we experience struggle and pain.
But as we journey towards that ultimate seventh day, Jesus invites us to experience a taste of real rest now by following him. Or in his words, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest."
All right. All right. Hopefully that was a good visual experience for you. I thought it was a visual video, very, very nice, pleasant view to look at. So, that doesn't work. Bible project. So, anybody want to share? I think I put the mic in front of Sharon. Is there anybody who wants, you don't have to share now, but I will ask you to share in a little bit. Any thoughts, comments, questions? What is it trying to share in this video? What is the importance of the seventh day according to Scripture and according to this video? We got Shoshana on the mic. Go ahead, Shoshana.
Okay, so anyways, have we lost count of the actual Jubilee? Do we actually know when it is? Because I heard different times given by different people, so I just wonder.
Great question, and no, I haven't looked into that. I'm not sure. I know that there is a rabbinic calendar that's currently produced, but I'm not sure that exactly is accurate. I don't know. Personally, I'm not studied into that too far, so I couldn't answer that question. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, according to the rabbinical calendar, 2028 would be the next Jubilee year. Oh, okay, cool. Thanks for looking into that. Anybody else have questions, thoughts about this video before we get into a little bit deeper Sabbath discussion? Everybody's scratching their heads like they want to say something, but maybe they... Okay, great.
7 continuously points to hope.
Ah.
Like, obviously, there's the week rest where it's 7 continuously points to hope, and like you have the weekly rest, so you have it points to hope of rest. And then there's also the slaves getting freed every 7 years, so that points to hope for them, and yeah, freedom. So it just points to hope.
Sounds great. And I personally think every Shabbat, I hope for the Shabbat. It's Monday, I'm at work, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready for the week to end. It's usually Monday around 8 a.m., very beginning of the week. So, yeah.
So, the bride in a Jewish wedding ceremony. Oh, y'all know it. Thank you, Sharon. But she goes around her husband 7 times because 7 is the number of completion. So to stir the pot a little bit, those of us that are married, we complete our spouses.
Very nice.
You remember that, please.
All right, so this video kind of gave you a whole visual of Sabbath, the creation account, but I did put this slide in here. Imagine this is the world prior to God. Well, I guess there's kind of a light already there, right? But in this creation account, what we see is before God even speaks, the world is wild and waste, right? There's just a world covered in water, darkness, but God is going to speak things into existence, concluding with the 7th day. He brings all this disorder, right? A world of nothing. It's just there, and creates something good for all of us to enjoy, yes? Right? So this is kind of like an outline of the 6 days of creation culminating in the Sabbath. Kind of how I explain it, how people typically explain it is that there's day 1, and it kind of corresponds to day 4. So we have days 1 through 3 are creating spaces for which God is, or spaces or time or what else, other things, I'm sorry. The land, the time and space, the waters being separated, and then he fills those things on days 4 through 6. So light and darkness are day 1, right? But then by day 4, he's creating the light, the ruler of the day and the ruler of the night. Doesn't even call them any names. Probably the writer of Genesis 1, Moshe, probably didn't put names in here for a purpose. There are no names other than the one creator, right? Have you noticed that? Whereas other accounts that Israel could have been influenced by, all about, there's this God and he kills this creature and its blood causes the earth to have this thing. There's no names. The names of the sun and the moon in Hebrew are not even there in the Hebrew. It's as if all names are removed so that there's one focus, one creator who created all things. Yahweh, Elohim. Yes, Shoshana, you had a question?
For some crazy reason, it seems like most translations, instead of saying Elohim, they say God. And that bothers me. It should say Elohim because that's what it says in Hebrew. Okay. So Elohim, is what it says right there in Genesis at the beginning. Very simple.
Yeah, we could definitely discuss that. Maybe that would probably be table discussion. Just as a simple answer, Elohim does translate into English mostly as God, so that's usually a good reference point. Anyways, so let's continue on. I also have a picture of a cosmic temple, if you will, the earth. What does God say about the heavens and the earth? God created the heavens and the earth, right? But what's his footstool? Earth is his footstool. It's as if in this entire creation account, creating the heavens and the earth, he's creating if you will, a cosmic temple, and then his footstool, the place where he eventually will come to dwell with humanity. Wouldn't you agree with that? The earth, ultimately Garden of Eden in the next passage, but you know what happens from there. There's also, if you notice, and this kind of connects to the idea of the 7 days of creation, they also have a pattern of 7-day creation in lots of different passages of the Bible, but I just want to bring up specifically the temple and the tabernacle building constructions. I don't know if you noticed this, but the construction of the tabernacle was completed in 7 stages. I don't think that's just coincidental, okay? It's kind of giving you back to that number 7 of completion, of hope that even though we are failing human beings, we will have a place to meet with God, right? To make sacrifices to us to bring ourselves back by committing these sacrifices to come and meet with God where he's at. There's also the ordination of 7 days of the priesthood, the Levitical priesthood. Solomon's temple was constructed in 7 years, and then he dedicates it over a 7-day festival in the 7th month. Do you think this 7 might be significant? Possibly? Okay, so you see that the pattern of 7 appears quite a lot in Scripture, right? I'm sure you already knew that. Jamie, you wanted to say something? Ooh. 7 times, and what? 7 days, right? Too. That they just. Yeah, I'm sure the 7s is all coincidences, right? Anyways, no, I didn't actually bring that one up, but Solomon's dedication speech about the temple after he constructed it was 7 petitions to God about, blessing this place and people and going to it. But there's also the idea of being filled with the Spirit, the taking of the idea of concept of Sabbath, kind of like how Bible Project, and kind of exploring it a little bit further. This is how I'm going to say it. It's like the 7th day is a weekly reminder that God's glorious act of creation is something for us to remember, to give it an opportunity for us to put aside everything else and say, you know what? God dwells with us. And we want to experience that opportunity in rest, envisioning that ultimate rest, envisioning the rest for him to take his time and we with him dwelling with us, that we spend that time with him. There's also some verses I want to bring up about connecting temple to rest and to dwelling with God. We have 1 Peter 2:5, where it says, you also, the living stones, are being built into a spiritual house to be a holy priesthood, offering spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Messiah Yeshua. Envisioning that rest and the people of God being the indwellers of who he is, his Spirit being within us today, all of us. There's no longer just a physical temple that he comes in and dwells in with the people, right? But every believer together, all of us, not just one individual, but the whole body is where God dwells, envisioning that ultimate rest where we will dwell with him in the New Jerusalem. There's also 1 Corinthians 6:19, just connecting that same idea. Do you not know that your body, and it's plural, y'all's body. Got that Southern English, y'all's body. Eric, I know you like that. Y'all's body, singular, one body, y'all's body, is a temple of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God. It's together, God's dwelling with us. Also, it's kind of the same repeated concept in 2 Corinthians 6:16. For we, the people, are the temple of the living God. And he says, I will dwell with them and walk among them, and I will be their God, and they will be my people. Which we're ultimately looking forward to in that rest, that time where he's going to bring all things to fulfillment. And we're looking forward to that. It also says in Ephesians the same kind of idea, that we, the people of God, I think I'm repeating this maybe too much, but you got to get the idea, right? We, the people of God together, are the spiritual house that God is dwelling in. Not that he's just some distant God that doesn't come to and visit his people, but he's with us. He's dwelling within us now, and by his Spirit. And one day we will dwell with him in the new creation. Hopefully we're all looking forward to that. What's that, Caleb? Oh, yeah. So Sabbath ultimately points to all these things, points to the idea of a future rest. It is a weekly celebration. We do it week by week. Why do we do it weekly? Why does God ask us to do it weekly? What do you think, Milo?
Because that was when y'all rest, and God is giving us a day to rest and follow his commandments.
That sounds great. Yes, a day to rest and follow his commandments. Practice makes perfect. That's great. Yes, exactly. Just like all the other festivals we just experienced. Sorry, I almost said it. I caught myself. Yom Teruah, and then Yom Kippur. And we just practiced, celebrate Sukkot. Aren't these things a perpetual reminder for us? A rehearsal, if you will, preparing for what is in store for us in the future. Why can't Sabbath be the same thing? Why can't Sabbath be the same idea? That they're just rehearsals to practice to the weekly rest, to bring ourselves, remove all those things that are in the background, remove it from ourselves, not be burdened with all these things, but come to the Father with rest and really remind ourselves that he's dwelling with us. Todd, like to say, Jamie, you want to say something?
I was just going to say the father didn't have to rest. Just
No.
like we as parents, there's certain things that we don't necessarily have to do or need to do, but we should still do them as an example for our children because we know our children need it. And right now in our earthly flesh, we need that seventh day so we don't burn out.
Absolutely, yes. We definitely need that seventh-day rest. Todd?
You were talking about why is it 1 week?
1 day a week, yeah.
And Yahweh had a 7,000-year plan for man, where man would rule himself for 6,000 years, and then Jesus would reign for 1,000 years. That's like the Sabbath. That's like the rest. So for Yahweh, every day is like 1,000 years. So that's why it's 1 week.
Very interesting connection, yeah, for sure. See, what is the purpose of today? What has God asked us to do? I think I'm going to bring a verse up in a little bit, but what is God ultimately asking us to do every day, every Shabbat day? Yeah, so it's not just commune with him, but that is part of it, but also to remember him. Well, God says in Exodus, remember the seventh day to keep it holy, but what does it say after that? For in 6 days he created the earth and all is in them. Why does he bring us back to that creation account? But to remember, the earth was nothing. It was just sitting there, wild and waste, just water. And God, in all his majesty and his glory, brought nothing into all that you see around you. Why can't we remember that every seventh day? Remember the glory of the creation. Kind of skip through this. We're also looking forward to new creation. Are we not? I hope you are. One day when we don't feel so old and so fragile and so weak. A day where he's going to remove all the tear from our eyes. A day where we can ultimately dwell with him. Thank you, Caleb. His indwelling presence with us. I'm actually going to skip this. I'm going to go back. We already talked about that, right? The festivals are rehearsals, remembering things in Israel's past. But ultimately, they all point to a future fulfillment. Agreed? Yes? Yes, especially in the Messianic era and beyond. His final dwelling with us. Remembering that idea of rest and Sabbath and dwelling with us. It's in Revelation, the very, very end of the book. I think there's one more chapter after that. It says, and I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. It's no longer just his spirit, but he himself will dwell with us. And he will dwell with them, and they will be his people. That is the promise of all the prophets, going from Jeremiah to Isaiah to Ezekiel, about God dwelling with man and being with him. And they will be his people, and he will be their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore, for the former things have passed away. The ultimate rest, what Sabbath is pointing to, the ultimate rest. Hope you're looking forward to it. Anyways, since the Sabbath seems to be so important, the idea of rest, the seventh day, sorry for the animation. I was just experimenting with stuff. The idea of 7-day rest, and we're practicing that rehearsal in anticipation of that final time. What should we do now on the weekly Sabbath? The commands that he's given us. What should we do? So that's kind of the main topic for today. A topic and a chance for you to think about it and maybe write down and pair up and share some things. It is a rhetorical question. Yes. Yeah. Guys, come on, John. Don, sorry. So we're going to do a quick short survey of some Sabbath scriptures. There's a lot in the scriptures. I understand that. There's a short survey. But what I'm going to ask you to do, Jess, if we haven't already, we've already passed out clipboards. So as I'm going through some of these commands, I just want you to quickly, if you see something that you're thinking about, what we should be doing and what we should not be doing on the Sabbath day. Just jot it down, write it down, and we're going to have a little bit of discussion time before we get to a group discussion, if you will. Milo. So, in Exodus 20, I think I already expressed this, but let's talk about Exodus 20. This is the first time we really get a command. Here's what the Sabbath is about. There are some things already talked about in Exodus 16 and before, but this is like the true first command about it. And here's what it says. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. You are to work 6 days and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to Yahweh your God. In it you shall not do any work, not you, nor your son, nor your daughter, your male servant, your female servant, your cattle, nor your immigrant within your gates. For in 6 days Yah made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the Sabbath day. Thus Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and kept it, or made it holy. See how it points back to creation? So who all ceases from work on this day? Well, if you go and read it, it says you, yeah, and your children. Are you supposed to go make your children do laborious work? I know they yearn for the mines, but not on that day. Sorry. That was a joke for the youth. I should have put a picture of my daughters. We went to a place this week called Ink. It's right down the road. And they had construction hats on and had the little construction vests. I sent it to Eric. Had them doing some work, some laborious work. But not on this day. Not on Shabbat. It says not your servants, people who are normally working for you. So, for example, I might put just a practical example. Eric, you have underlings, right? You have subordinates, if you will. Not servants, but subordinates, people who, your project superintendent, yes? So he has people who work under him. On Sabbath, is he supposed to go send them out to go work for him? According to the command, not, right? What about the immigrant within your gates? It says, don't let them work either. The person who was not part of Israel, but has come to join Israel, Gentiles, they're not even supposed to work. Now, if you know Scripture, you know that the Sabbath is the day that God said is the sign between Israel and God. And yet, on the Sabbath day, the immigrant's not supposed to work either. Who said that? Well, what? It says not even your animals are supposed to work. Not even your animals. So the whole community rests. Agreed? Everybody who is to practice Sabbath, there's no work to be done. It's all, everybody's to rest. Shoshana, you had a point.
That also involves not going to buy anything to a restaurant on Shabbat, because you're having those people work for you.
Okay. Yes, I am going to get into that in a second too. Yes, thank you for looking ahead about some other commands about the Sabbath. Daniel, what's up?
One thing my mother always beat in my head was
Physically or?
guilty by association. So the idea there is that you're surrounding yourself by people and saying, don't work. And you don't want that one particular person to be working and begin to plague or cause a cancer within that community within itself. And then also holding those people accountable that do try to work. Obviously, the guy that went to collect wood, there were consequences to that.
I think that was a great point, Daniel. Yeah, wouldn't you want to be guilty of association of keeping Sabbath rather than violating Sabbath and causing that kind of mindset to spread throughout your community? That's great. That's a great point. Rachel.
I don't see a lot of people talking about this, but part of the commandment is to work for 6 days. It's not just about rest. It says you're to work for 6 days.
So I actually had that conversation with somebody this week. I don't remember who, about what the Hebrew says about that. And the Hebrew word, and it's like the imperfect tense, if you will. It's a pretty flexible translation. So it can be future tense. It can be an instructive. It could also mean permissive. So you may work for 6 days, but you're not supposed to work this day. And I think that's the idea behind it is, yeah, you can do all the work you want in these 6 days. These have been set aside for you, but you're not doing it this day. That's the idea. At least that's what I've gathered from it. But if you want to work 6 days, Rachel, by all means, I'm not going to stop. Anyways, what else? Oh, yeah, Don, go ahead. Yeah.
I need a mic. I can talk.
Well, people on the live stream want to hear you. We all want to hear you, Don.
All right, so what about food? What about goats that have to be milked and stuff like that? There's no flexibility whatsoever within. I mean, if you ever read Laura Ingalls, I remember something Linda read to me one time, that the children were made to sit still all day long and they'd go crazy. They did nothing. They literally sat in their chairs and did nothing all day long. So you don't prepare food, you don't drink water. I mean,
No,
where
it
does
doesn't say
that
that.
end, where does that end, right? What is considered work and what is considered rest? And there needs to be a real discussion on that, right, to make sure exactly what it is.
Hey, we're getting there.
All right. So
Thanks,
I
Don.
kind of want to know where that is because I'm new to all this stuff. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what this is about, is I want to have that dialogue, because there are some gray areas I think there are tough as well, hard examples. You brought up a great one, and I hope you'll, maybe as we discuss it a little bit more, you'll think about it. Yeah, Jamie?
To answer Don, and just my thought process, my children have tried that. They've gotten up and they've said, it's Shabbat, when I've said, do you need to feed your animals? And I've looked at them and I've said, well, do you want me to feed you? Because your animals have to eat, and I think that's our responsibility, is to take care of what's ours. And you don't want your animals to have to go out of their way to work extra hard to find the food that you did not feed them. So I think there's a lot of logic to it too.
Yeah, so what you bring up is a great point. I mean, if you think about ancient Israel, let's say they have some sheep in a sheep pen, right? On Shabbat, are they not allowed to open the sheep pen to let them go graze? I mean, that's not what the command says. It says to not make them work. It doesn't say you can't take care of your animals, make sure they're fed and have water, but it does say you're not supposed to go put work upon them. I think, is that kind of help answer your question? Beast of burden, yes. Servile work, yes. Right, exactly. Great. All right. So it also says, and I think we've already discussed this, that it says, remember the Sabbath day. What's it pointing back to? It's pointing back to the creation account, that God created all these things. He created the world for yourself, for us as humans. He is Lord of the world, yes? And we're supposed to remember those 6 days that he took to create a perfect world, a good world for us. So I would put on you, think about, as part of the commandment, not just to not work, but also the second half, which is to remember, what did God do for you? Not just in the 6-day creation account, of course, but also his act of redemption and preparing you and taking care of you and giving you salvation. Yes, Shoshana?
Okay, so if we're remembering the Sabbath day, Abraham, on Genesis 5:26, it says that he kept Torah. And wouldn't he have kept already the Sabbath, seeing how, it was established from the beginning? And so it would have been an integral part of Torah to the Sabbath, So he probably was doing it, since it says he kept Torah, right?
Seems logical, yeah. I'm going to skip this. We already talked about it. A couple more verses about the Sabbath, something for you to think about and jot down as you think about. These are from the prophets, and we'll get into later writings, Second Temple. But Jeremiah, this is what he says. Thus says Yahweh. And I've limited some of the verses in here, because if we were to talk about every verse in the Bible about Sabbath, we would be here for 3 hours. Okay? Or more, actually. But in Jeremiah it says, thus says Yah, guard your souls, carry no burden on the Sabbath day, or bring it in through the gates of Jerusalem. Nor shall you carry a burden out of your houses on the Sabbath day, or do any work. But keep the Sabbath day holy, as I commanded your fathers. Okay? And then in Nehemiah, it says the following. This is second temple as they're constructing it. In those days I saw in Judah people treading wine presses on the Sabbath, and bringing in heaps of grain and loading them on donkeys, and also wine, grapes, figs, and all kinds of loads, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I warned them on the day when they sold food. Tyrians also, who lived in the city, brought in fish and all kinds of goods and sold them on the Sabbath to the people of Judah, in Jerusalem itself. Then I confronted the nobles of Judah and said to them, what is this evil thing that you are doing, profaning the Sabbath day? You see the idea of profaning it? Is doing the things you normally do. That's profaning it. It's supposed to be a set apart day, a completely separate type of day. So why are you doing the things you normally do on that day? Did not your fathers act in this way, and did not our God bring all this disaster on them and on this city? He's just remembering what just happened. They're coming back to the land, but it's been destroyed because of what they've been doing. They're not keeping covenant. And he says, now you are bringing more wrath on Israel by profaning the Sabbath. And then he continues, as soon as it began to grow dark at the gates of Jerusalem before the Sabbath, so this would be like a Friday night, I commanded that the doors should be shut and gave orders that they should not be opened until after the Sabbath. And I stationed some of my servants at the gates, and no load may be brought in on the Sabbath day. Then the merchants and sellers of all kinds of wares lodged outside Jerusalem once or twice. But I warned them and said, why do you lodge outside the wall? If you do so again, I will lay hands on you. He's going to get violent. Okay. From that time on, they did not come on the Sabbath. He set the standard for this for the people of Israel. We're not doing this on the Sabbath day. We're not. Close the gates. You guys stay out. We're not doing this. Think about if we took that approach with, things that are common in our lives. We set it out and we're like, we're not doing it. That's it. We're standing our grounds with our families, our friends. Hey, yeah, I can go and join you at that soccer game if you want to invite me to watch an Atlanta United game. Just not today. It could be any other day, 6 days of the week, just not today, for example. Yes, Sharon.
Kevin, this is a real question. When Yeshua threw over the tables from the money changers, was that on a Shabbat too? Was that a Sabbath day?
I don't recall.
Does anybody know? I had heard that from someone. Okay.
It was what they were doing, not
What I
the
heard-
day of.
Oh. Yeah, someone had told me that it was a Shabbat. That's
okay.
why I'm asking.
Well, that's a good question. I don't know, but I don't think that's why he was doing what he was doing, but that I think other people have already answered that. But it is a good question to answer if it's on Shabbat. Made a whip for 3 hours and then started beating them with it. Okay, so this is what I want to ask you to do on your paper. For those of you who have a paper or a notebook or something, I want you to do me a favor. Could you make a T-chart for me? You did a T-chart before, right? Sharon, come on, you've done a T-chart before. So we've already talked a little bit about scriptures where it says things to do, things not to do, yes? Some of it pretty clear, right, when you say? So on your T-chart, you can put aside to do and not to do on the Sabbath. Can we do that? And what I want you to do is, I know you're probably going to, and this kind of happens in my classroom too, is people tend to stick with their friends and the people they know. But I would encourage you to maybe get a different perspective. Maybe Jamie and Daniel could partner up with April. Todd, you can partner up with Becca. Becca's like, no, please don't. Shoshana, partner up with Eric. Pair up, group up. I want you to think about things that the scripture says to do on the Sabbath, and think about things that in your personal experience are good things to do on Sabbath, and then come up with a couple of things that you think you should not do on Sabbath. Can we do that? Just to give it, talk about it, think about it. Thank you, Jamie. It's always that one person who's like, yeah, I'm going to follow the teacher's directions. Oh, wait, Daniel did it too. Oh, very good. So think about it. And for our people in the live stream, they can, of course, type in the chat. They can communicate with the wider community. Jessica's on the computer. All right, Don, David, you want to come chat maybe with Todd and Eric and just think about some things you might do, may not do? Active learning today. Let's do like 3 minutes, a timer for 3 minutes. You're like you want to kill me, Don. Kind of. You don't have to. I'm just encouraging you. Shoshana, do you want to stick maybe with, that's a big group, maybe with Rachel and Brenda? Agree. Agree. You need to go potty? All right, let's wrap up conversations. You need another minute? Mr. Mack, one more minute. I couldn't say. Let's so let's say maybe closer to 1, 12:45, 1. I want to make it longer just for Dawn, though. All right. All right. I know it's a big conversation, but this is your opportunity to share with the congregation. Caleb, do you have the mic? Caleb, you want to go first? Do you want to share what you guys have talked about? Like, let's talk about what you should do on the Sabbath. What do you think?
It would be my pleasure. All right, what do you say?
Oh, remember creation.
We're supposed to remember creation. We're supposed to rest from any normal work.
He's going to different people.
Do you want us to share the whole thing or just one thing?
That thing's fine. Yeah. Just what you should do.
Everything from what you should do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else have something different than what Caleb and Sharon have? Okay, we got Daniel. Yeah.
Why not? Something you can do. We wrote good. Attend FCM, brush your teeth, juggle, and eat candy.
Okay, I suppose those are things you can do for sure.
Eat candy, then brush teeth.
I wonder if Leah put the candy part. Possibly. Okay, so what you should do is pretty clear, right? But here's where we get to the challenge. And I have examples too. What should we not do? Anybody want to share what we should not do? If you want to come up with a specific example too.
You can't go hunting or fishing. You can't go to the store or the circus or clean out your chicken boxes.
Okay, fair. That's a fair point. Yeah. Anybody else want to share? Milo, what should we not do on the Sabbath? What should we not do?
Can't fart in public.
I would say you should do that on any day. But thank you for such.
One that I just thought of would be you can't touch any dead. You can't touch dead animals or dead bodies.
Oh,
on the
okay,
Sabbath.
yeah.
Don't be a menace to society.
Oh, are we we're on the what nots to do?
Yeah, what not to do.
To create work for others and not to specifically carry your burden.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I like that.
Okay. So are there any gray areas, hard examples? I have a couple, but I want to, before we get into probably the more challenging aspect of this topic, are there any gray areas, hard examples? You're like, I don't know, maybe, maybe not. Jamie, and then we got Todd.
Cooking and you know, because you have to eat, but cooking and maybe the limitations, because it is called a feast day for a reason.
Oh, okay.
But should you be, you know, we make excuses like, well, we have microwaves now, we have ovens now, but does that justify, because it's work cooking a meal.
Oh, for sure. Now,
like what she said, but what
I'm not saying that's
people who love to
somebody
cook,
else.
it's relaxing to them, it's not work to them.
okay, that is good. That's a good point. I have a thought about that too. Todd wanted. Oh, okay. Can we go to Shoshana then? Todd? Okay, whatever. You man with the mic. You go ahead, buddy.
All right, we talked about pay at the pump, right? Because it's almost like feeding your animal, you know. If you yeah, you know. And some gas stations, they could be completely closed, but their pumps are still open for pay at the pump, right? So no one's actually technically working. It's a computer that's driving it. And is that okay? Because we do have to get places, even to church, you know. That is how our society is geared. No pun intended. So is that okay?
Real knee slapper there. Okay, yeah. So even and to extend on that, what about self-checkout at Kroger then? Okay.
But you're still spending money, but you're not
Engaging in commerce. We got a lot of people, different voices. Did anybody want to talk about that one? Shoshana? Caleb? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you, Don. I should let Caleb just run the mic, run it around.
Okay.
Literally.
It's one thing I was gonna say before. If you are warming something on the oven, you already cooked it. You already prepared it ahead of time.
Yeah, okay.
So you just stick it in the oven. You're not really working. You're just pressing a button. Same thing will apply to pumping gas in itself. You know, you forgot to gas up and you're in a hurry, you know, that happens sometimes. Now, when it comes to Kroger's or any of the other grocery stores, sorry, but somebody, as somebody here was saying, they're going to have to open the store, get the stocks online. So I don't care if you're self-paying, you know, it doesn't work, you know. So somebody has to be there to you know, so buy your stuff ahead of time, cook it ahead of time. So all you have to do is warm it up. That's it.
Okay.
For some people, cooking is relaxing. It's not work. It's something.
Now we're going to get into that idea.
That's what she said.
We'll broaden that to more than just cooking, okay?
So engaging in commerce back then required multiple people. It required at least two people. But engaging in commerce today doesn't necessarily require more than one person. In fact, many banks and institutions, financial institutions, are not even working on that day. It doesn't come through until later. So we can run a credit card through a machine. It's a computer that's working. It's not a human being that's working in some cases. But back then, it had to be at least two people to engage in commerce. So there is a spot where society has kind of come to a place where we have to kind of weigh this and go, well, is this okay or not? Right? Because there's not two people. We're not keeping anyone from
Now, see, I did set this up in a specific way for you to think about those great examples, because technically you don't violate Sabbath by doing that, right? Let's say by cooking, if it's relaxing to you, maybe you don't violate Sabbath in particular. Maybe if you pump gas, you're not violating Sabbath in particular because you're not making anyone rest. But are you keeping Sabbath the way God intended for you to keep Sabbath? Meaning not just the rest part, but what about the remembering, keeping it holy, keeping it separate from the other days? Are you truly doing that if you are going to self-checkout or pumping your gas? Is not something, I'm just throwing it out there, I'm not condemning or anything, hopefully that doesn't come off that way. Is it possible for you to do that another day ahead of time so that on Shabbat is your holy day, it's set up for you, we're not doing any of that? Just a thought. Becca, you want to share something?
Yeah, and I'll carry it back to her. You read in Nehemiah that they were told not to buy or sell.
Yes.
I mean, very plain, very openly, not to buy or sell. And I realize that does take two people. They had to bring the burden in. But let's also look at the guy who was stoned for picking up sticks on the Sabbath. Was he stoned for kindling a fire, or for not being prepared with what he needed on the Sabbath? So we have to kind of parse, we have to kind of extrapolate what was the meaning, why was he stoned? I mean, he lost his life, and God told Moshe to tell all the people to go back to their tents at that point. Told them to go back to your tents because he didn't want anyone else to fall in the same temptation. But they did, I'll walk back to you ladies, I'm sorry. But if you look at that, he wasn't stoned for lighting a fire, and it says not to kindle a fire on the Sabbath. Has he? Okay, I'll get there. But for me, I have to look at the underlying mode of why the gentleman was stoned. For picking up sticks. Why did he pick up sticks on the Sabbath? He needed a fire, and he wasn't prepared Friday evening. We're given 6 days not only to work, but to prepare. And I live my life by schedules. So I can schedule it out to the minute. And I try to make sure I'm ready. I'm not always, but I try to be. And I think that's God's intent, and that's what our heart's intent should be, is to be ready and prepared for that day of rest. Even on day one, even on Sunday, we should be considering what's going to happen on day 6, Friday, so we're ready for day 7, which we're given.
Great points. So you are taking it to that point where, what is God intending for the Sabbath day? Is he just saying don't rest? Or rest? Or is he giving us more, like taking it and making it a completely separate day from all the other days? Sounds great, yes.
You are supposed to set it apart, like do not treat it like any other day.
Right.
And something about that is that in Exodus, they are to get the manna, double manna, on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And something else with that is to be prepared. But when it comes to the grocery store thing, I don't think getting gas is necessarily against it, simply because they would have had to open that up anyway. So you are not making anyone work. You are not doing that. And if you have to go to the counter or something, that is because you weren't prepared, because you didn't have card, or they don't take cash or something. That is you're not prepared. But it's also because you're not prepared for getting gas. Anyways, going into a grocery store, however, and still using self-checkout, that is making someone work, because there is a self-checkout attendant. So
fair enough.
Yeah, someone has to help you sometimes.
There's also the possibility, even at pumping gas, I think you kind of brought this up, what if the pump has an issue? So you're going to be stuck with the gas coming in and out of your pump and whatnot. The attendant might have to come and help you. You are not in that preparation. You are possibly causing more issues just by doing it on that day, rather than preparing in advance.
No, they don't. I've been to gas stations that nobody was at the store, and the gas station pump is working just fine, and you do not need to be It doesn't need to be man with a, yeah. So those, yeah, I use those in emergencies. But what I was gonna say though, I don't know if any of you have gone camping and tried to gather sticks. Let me tell you, it is work. I don't care if what, it's work. Looking for those sticks in the middle of the wilderness would have been extra work because it was hot and they didn't have that many trees, so that man was working.
All right, good points. So here are some possible examples I was thinking about. I was banging around with Eric Lovelace and Jessica just to think about some of them. So I want to say this has nothing, there's no personal issue with it. Everything on this list is something at some point in time, even as a Sabbath keeper, I may have done, and I don't think it's something to continue to do, but this is something I've done. So it's not, there's no judgment on my part whatsoever, okay? Okay. But let's think possible examples of things that you may have done, or you do, or just think about it, okay? What about going to the gym? You're working out. But, okay, so if you go to the gym, I mean, you're not making anyone work because you can go in, scan with your phone. But again, is that keeping the Sabbath different? Is it keeping it set apart? What's that? Not resting your body. That's a good point. What about watching YouTube, TikTok for the youngins? Do you watch TikTok? Okay. What about watching YouTube? Now, it's not rest. Or sorry, it is rest. It could be relaxing, kick back, watching a movie, right? But are you really resting your mind, heart, and soul? Or is it a possibility that you are consuming your time with something other than thinking about God's glory and His creation?
We're airing this on YouTube right now for people.
I understand that. Dawn's asked about the spirit of the day.
Amen.
I'm not saying that I'm not condemning anybody or saying, hey, this is something you should not do. I'm just thinking, these are hard examples. It's hard not to watch some YouTube or a TV on the Sabbath, right? Is it really violating the Sabbath command? Maybe not, but are you really keeping it holy? Are you really keeping it set apart? Hey, Jess. Yeah.
Hi. Just really quick, I think there's maybe a little clarification here, maybe in what I think you mean when you're saying watching YouTube, Netflix, TV, TikTok, whatever. It's not like maybe like 5 minutes here or there. It's like when you're going on there for like a longer period of time. A lot of the times, I think in our modern, we kind of use those things as like an escapism or a distraction from our difficulties instead of turning to God on the Sabbath for those things. We're like, I just need to like disconnect and turn off everything going around me so I can do that. And then it leads into that. Yep.
Yeah, that was my next thing was doom scrolling on social media. Now, opening up Facebook, scrolling through it over and over again for possibly an hour. It may be keeping the part of rest, but is it keeping the Sabbath set apart? Guys, I'm not telling you guys this to beat you over the head and say you should not be doing this. I'm asking it in a very, I know it's a hard example, to ask you, are these things we should do, or should we keep the day set apart and do those other days? That's the only thought. I mean, here, and I'll give it, Jamie, just as an example. I mean, last night, I was laying in bed before I went to sleep. I watched a YouTube video, okay, on the Sabbath. Yeah, I know. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, but I mean, like, let's say watching YouTube, watching your favorites, I don't know exactly what all your interests are. Maybe watching a guy deconstruct a gun, put it back together, go shooting it. Yes, you're resting, but are you remembering the day? Dedicating time to following sports. This could be hard. I mean, I love, especially Sundays, I love football. I'm dedicated to my team's actually looking good this year, New England Patriots. But what if you spent all your time on that day thinking about your sports team? Are they going to do well? Looking up stats of your players? That can be is it keeping the Sabbath separate? Is it keeping it holy? It's just a question. Hobbies. Also difficult. I'm just asking the question. I'm not condemning. Remember, nothing personal. I'm not condemning. So if you sit and craft or knit, hiking, maybe you have your own brewery or something in your home and you're doing some brewing, is that keeping the day holy? Yes, Rachel. Starting to sound like my classroom.
I think a lot of these things are circumstantial depending on what you're watching. Like if it's a Bible video, I think that's okay because you're focusing on God and the Bible at that time. And with the hobbies, if it's something you're making money off of or you need, I would say wait another day. But if you're knitting for relaxation, that's completely different, in my opinion. And with social media, you could be looking at Bible memes.
Yeah, so, and I call this gray areas, hard examples, because that is. If you think about it, I mean, yes, maybe, for example, knitting could be something that's relaxing to you. However, I am going to keep going back to the same point. Yes, I understand it's rest, but is it remembering? Is it keeping the day separate? Are you knitting and glorifying God? That's just a thought. Yeah, Daniel. I see it caused some controversy.
Was a lot of the things that you had described, it goes back to, I guess, personal gratification rather than, gratifying the Father. It's a personal, internal thing that you're trying to please yourself rather than Him. So I think if you look at it through those lenses, and I'm guilty just like everybody else is, but just look at it through that lens rather than look at it through that way.
So we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up for right now. Sharon, let's have that for table discussion because what he brought up is actually something I was going to get to as well. Thank you, Daniel. Actually, it's a great segue. Going to skip this part. Skipping Isaiah. I'm actually going to focus on Isaiah 58, which talks about Sabbath. This is what Isaiah 58 says. Thank you for that transition segue, Daniel. It says in Isaiah 58, if you keep your feet from breaking the Sabbath and from doing as you please on my holy day, if you call the Sabbath a delight and Yahweh's holy day honorable, and if you honor it by not going your own way and not doing as you please or speaking a word worthlessly, then you will find your joy in Yahweh. That's what the Sabbath's about, isn't it not? About finding your joy in Yahweh. So it's not just about rest, it's also about remembering. It's also about remembering what He's done. And then it says, you will cause you to ride in triumph on the heights of the land and cause you to feast on the inheritance of your father Jacob. Great idea, the great enjoyment and what we're looking forward to come, the great enjoyment with God. But are we keeping the day honorable? Are we keeping it a holy day? If we're doing all the things that we like to do that would please us, are we actually doing what pleases the Father? It's just a question. I love that you had this discussion today. Hopefully it was got you to think a little bit differently about Sabbath. I do have more verses and all that, but I think we kind of hit the big highlights of the Sabbath. Hopefully something you'll think about it later. But I do want you to remember that we are, for the Father, we are meant to be living sacrifices for Him. According to Romans 12, what Paul says, right? And on this day in particular, what are you doing? And I'm asking you, it's rhetorical, Don, but I am asking, what are you doing to present yourself as a living sacrifice today on this holy day? Not just turning yourself and keeping rest, but also keeping the day honorable and glorifying the Father. Doing the things that He's asking you to do and to enjoy Him. If you find your rest in Him, are you finding your joy in Him? That's the question here.